Titanoboa, queen of the ancient jungle. Imagine a snake as long as a school bus weighing over a ton, slithering through dense tropical forests. This isn't a horror movie plot. This is a real creature that lived on our planet 60 million years ago. The discovery of the century. In 2009, in Colombia's Guajira province, at the Serpentine coal mine, paleontologists made an astonishing discovery. Among fossils of ancient plants and trees, they found enormous vertebrae, so large they were initially mistaken for crocodile bones. But closer examination revealed the truth. This was a snake. And not just any snake, but the largest snake that ever crawled on Earth. Titanoboa sarajonensis, that's what they named this giant reptile. The name comes from the Greek titan giant and boa, a type of snake, while sarajonensis refers to the discovery location. Staggering dimensions. Picture a snake 13 meters long, the length of a tennis court. Titanoboa weighed up to 1,135 kilograms. By comparison, the largest modern anaconda weighs around 250 kilograms and reaches a maximum of 9 meters. Titanoboa's body at its thickest point had a diameter of about 1 meter, like a large beer barrel. The skull of such a snake was the size of a human head, and its jaws could open so wide that Titanoboa could easily swallow crocodiles whole. Its curved teeth, though not venomous, were perfect for gripping slippery prey. A window into a lost world. But Titanoboa's discovery tells us much more than just the story of a giant predator. It's a window into a completely different Earth, the Paleocene epoch, right after the extinction of the dinosaurs. When the asteroid struck 66 million years ago and wiped out the dinosaurs, it created an ecological vacuum. The giant reptiles that had dominated the planet for 165 million years were gone. But life, as it always does, found a way. The world Titanoboa inhabited was dramatically different from ours. Colombia, now known for its coffee plantations and mountains, was covered by vast tropical rainforests and swamps. The temperature was 3 to 5 degrees Celsius warmer than today, and the climate was much more humid. These were perfect conditions for cold-blooded reptiles to grow to enormous sizes. The science of giant snakes. Here's where it gets fascinating from a scientific perspective. Snakes are ectothermic. They can't regulate their body temperature internally like mammals do. They depend on their environment to stay warm. The larger a snake is, the warmer its environment needs to be. By studying Titanoboa's size, scientists could actually calculate the average temperature of that ancient tropical climate. The math is elegant. For a snake of this size to survive, the average temperature had to be around 30 to 34 degrees Celsius, significantly warmer than today's tropics. This discovery became a powerful tool for understanding ancient climates and, ironically, helped scientists better understand climate change and its effects on modern ecosystems. Life as an apex predator. What did Titanoboa eat? Everything. This creature was the undisputed apex predator of its ecosystem. The Serpentine Formation where it was found was once a massive river system, similar to the modern Amazon. Titanoboa likely spent much of its time in water like modern anacondas. Its prey included giant turtles, some with shells 2 meters across, primitive crocodilians called dirosaurids, and large fish. Titanoboa was a constrictor, not a venomous snake. It would ambush prey from the murky water, wrap its massive coils around the victim, and squeeze. Each time the prey exhaled, Titanoboa would tighten its grip until the animal could no longer breathe. The pressure from those coils would have been absolutely crushing, literally bone-breaking force. The fossil evidence. The Serpentine mine has yielded fossils from at least 28 individual Titanoboa specimens. This is extraordinary. Snake fossils are quite rare because their skeletons are delicate and don't preserve well. The fact that so many were found suggests that Titanoboa was actually quite common in its environment. The coal mine itself tells part of the story. Coal forms from ancient plant matter, and the thick coal seams at Serpentine indicate this was once a lush, plant-rich environment, a tropical paradise teeming with life. Why so big? Several factors contributed to Titanoboa's enormous size. First, the warm climate allowed for gigantism in reptiles. Second, there was an abundance of food. The post-dinosaur world was full of smaller animals, evolving to fill ecological niches. Third, there were no major competitors. Mammals were still relatively small during this period. In a sense, Titanoboa was nature's experiment. How large can a snake grow when conditions are optimal? The end of an era. Titanoboa didn't last forever. As the Earth gradually cooled over millions of years, conditions became less favorable for giant cold-blooded reptiles. By about 58 million years ago, Titanoboa had vanished from the fossil record. The cooling climate favored mammals, which could regulate their own body temperature. Gradually, mammals grew larger and more diverse, eventually becoming the dominant land animals, a position they still hold today. Legacy and wonder. The discovery of Titanoboa captured public imagination worldwide. There's something both terrifying and magnificent about this creature. It reminds us that Earth has hosted life forms stranger and more spectacular than anything in our fiction. Museums around the world now feature life-sized Titanoboa models. The Smithsonian created a 15-meter replica that toured exhibitions, allowing people to stand next to this prehistoric monster and truly grasp its scale. For scientists, Titanoboa remains a treasure trove of information. Every vertebra tells a story about growth rates, diet, habitat, and the ancient climate. Ongoing research continues to reveal new insights about this remarkable animal and the world it inhabited. A message from deep time. Perhaps the most profound lesson from Titanoboa is about the dynamic nature of our planet. The Earth of 60 million years ago, with its giant snakes, enormous turtles, and sweltering jungles, was radically different from our world. Yet it was the same planet, operating under the same physical laws. Climate changes, ecosystems transform, species rise and fall. The story of Titanoboa is ultimately a story about adaptation, evolution, and the endless creativity of life on Earth. It's a reminder that our current world, with all its familiar creatures, is just one chapter in an ongoing epic that began billions of years ago and will continue long after we're gone. When you look at a modern snake, remember, you're seeing the descendant of a lineage that once produced the most magnificent serpent ever to exist. Titanoboa may be gone, but its legacy slithers on. The hidden world of Titanoboa, reconstructing a monster. When paleontologists first laid out the Titanoboa vertebrae, they faced an enormous challenge. How do you reconstruct an animal that has no living equivalent? The largest modern snakes provided a template, but they had to extrapolate far beyond known species. Dr. Jason Head, a paleontologist from the University of Nebraska, led the team that described Titanoboa, using comparative anatomy and mathematical models. They worked backwards from the fossilized bones. Each vertebra told a story. Its size, shape, and articulation points revealed how the snake moved, how flexible it was, and how it hunted. The team discovered something fascinating. Titanoboa's vertebrae were proportionally thicker and more robust than those of modern giant snakes. This wasn't just a scaled-up anaconda, it was engineered differently, built to support weight that no modern snake could handle. The serpentine ecosystem. The coal mine that yielded Titanoboa is itself extraordinary. Serpentine is one of the world's largest open-pit coal mines, and as miners dig deeper, they're essentially traveling back in time through geological layers. The Paleocene rocks at Serpentine have revealed an entire ecosystem. Alongside Titanoboa, scientists found fossilized remains of enormous turtles with shells like car hoods, ancient relatives of modern caimans, and massive prehistoric fish. The plant fossils show enormous palm trees and ferns, creating a dense canopy that would have blocked out the sun at ground level. This was a swamp forest ecosystem, similar to the Florida Everglades but supersized. Rivers meandered through the landscape, creating oxbow lakes and seasonal flood plains. It was hot, humid, and absolutely teeming with life. Hunting strategy, based on its anatomy and the environment it lived in. Scientists have pieced together how Titanoboa likely hunted. Unlike modern anacondas that often hunt from riverbanks, Titanoboa was probably almost entirely aquatic, given its massive weight. Picture this: a prehistoric crocodilian comes to the water's edge to drink. Below the murky surface, coiled among submerged logs, Titanoboa waits. The snake is so large that even the tip of its tail is thicker than a human thigh. It doesn't need to hide completely. In the dark water, it's virtually invisible. The moment the crocodilian wades in, Titanoboa strikes. Not with venomous fangs, but with pure mass and power. Those massive coils wrap around the prey with hydraulic force. Scientists estimate that Titanoboa could generate constriction pressures of 400 pounds per square inch, enough to stop blood flow to the brain within seconds and crack ribs like twigs. Temperature and metabolism. The relationship between Titanoboa's size and climate is one of the most important aspects of its discovery. Dr. Head's team used a principle called Kleiber's Law, a biological rule that relates body size to metabolic rate. For a snake of Titanoboa's size to maintain enough energy to move, hunt, and digest food, the ambient temperature couldn't have been below 30 degrees Celsius on average. Modern tropical regions average around 26–27 degrees Celsius. This means the Paleocene tropics were significantly hotter than today's. This finding has profound implications. It shows that Earth can naturally support much higher temperatures than we currently experience. But it also demonstrates what kinds of creatures thrive in such conditions, and mammals aren't among them. In the hot Paleocene world, reptiles ruled while mammals remained relatively small. The question of eggs, one mystery that remains unsolved. Where did Titanoboa lay its eggs? Modern large snakes like pythons and anacondas can lay 30 to 40 eggs at a time. A creature the size of Titanoboa might have laid 50 to 100 eggs, each the size of a grapefruit. But no Titanoboa eggs have ever been found. This isn't surprising. Eggs are fragile and rarely fossilize, but it leaves questions about the snake's reproductive biology. Did it guard its nest like some modern pythons? Did it give live birth like anacondas? We simply don't know. What we do know is that baby Titanoboas would have been vulnerable. At hatching, they might have been only 2 to 3 meters long, still larger than most adult snakes today, but small enough to be prey for the giant crocodilians and large fish that shared their habitat. The museum experience. When the Smithsonian Institution created its life-sized Titanoboa model for the 2012 exhibition, they wanted visitors to truly understand the scale. The model stretched across an entire gallery. Children could walk through the snake's open mouth. Adults standing next to it barely reached the midpoint of its body. The reaction was universal, mixed with relief that such creatures no longer exist. But the exhibition also showed Titanoboa in context, surrounded by models of the plants and animals it lived with. The message was clear. This wasn't a monster, but an animal perfectly adapted to its world. Modern relatives. Today's largest snakes are impressive, but nowhere near Titanoboa's size. The reticulated python can reach 7 to 8 meters, and the green anaconda can grow to 9 meters and 250 kilograms. These are the genetic descendants of the same lineage that produced Titanoboa. Why don't we have giant snakes anymore? The answer is climate. As Earth cooled, particularly after the Paleocene thermal maximum about 56 million years ago, conditions no longer favored such enormous ectothermic predators. The niche that Titanoboa filled was gradually taken over by large mammalian predators that could regulate their own body temperature. Climate change lessons. Ironically, Titanoboa has become relevant to modern climate science. The snake serves as a calibration point for understanding how warm Climates affect biodiversity, as our planet warms due to human activity. Scientists look to periods like the Paleocene to understand potential outcomes. The Paleocene shows us that Earth can be much hotter and still support abundant life. But it's a different kind of life. The transition from the dinosaur age to the age of mammals took millions of years and involved countless extinctions and radiations of new species. The changes we're causing are happening in mere centuries, far too fast for most species to adapt. Final thoughts. Titanoboa represents a peak in snake evolution, the absolute upper limit of how large a snake can grow under optimal conditions. It's a reminder that evolution doesn't have a direction or goal. It simply responds to environmental pressures and opportunities. In those steamy Paleocene forests, with abundant prey and no competition, natural selection favored larger and larger snakes until they reached the physical limits imposed by their biology and environment. When conditions changed, Titanoboa's time ended. We live in a world that could never support a Titanoboa again. Our climate is to cool, our ecosystems to different, and perhaps that's for the best. But knowing that such magnificent creatures once existed enriches our understanding of life's possibilities and reminds us that Earth's story is far stranger and more wonderful than we often imagine.